Most people over 60 are told the same thing about their memory. It is mostly genetics, so do a few crossword puzzles and hope for the best. It sounds sensible. It sounds safe. But here is what nobody tells you. Crossword puzzles and good luck alone do not protect your ability to live in your own home and make your own decisions. The largest review of this question, published by the Lancet Commission on Dementia, concluded that a huge share of dementia cases worldwide are tied to risk factors that can actually be changed. Their most recent estimate puts that share at close to half. Memory clinics see the same pattern every single week in people who were never told any of this while there was still time to act. So in the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through 5 dementia risk factors that are still in your hands after 60, counting down from number 5 to number 1. And I am going to give you the one insight that a 12-minute appointment almost never has time to cover. The number 1 item on this list is something almost nobody talks about, and most people over 60 already have it right now without knowing. Stay with me until the end, because that one can change how you approach the next 10 years. Think about your last appointment. You had about 12 minutes, and most of that went to the blood pressure cuff, your prescription refills, and whatever brought you in that day. There is no billing code for a 20-minute conversation about protecting your brain over the next decade. So that conversation gets replaced by one sentence. Stay active and keep your mind busy. That sentence is not wrong, but it is not a plan. It is the medical equivalent of telling someone to drive safely without ever showing them where the brakes are. I want to be clear about something before we go any further. I am not here to sell you a supplement or scare you into a course. This channel exists to give you the science a 12-minute appointment never has time to cover. Nothing on this list is expensive, and 3 of the 5 cost nothing at all. Because the real fear here is not death. The real fear is the day somebody else decides what you eat, where you live, and whether you are still allowed to drive to the store. Every single item on this list is about keeping that decision in your own hands. Before we start, do me one favor. Type your age and your town in the comments right now so I can see who is here tonight. Here is the single mechanism underneath all 5 items. Your brain is not a sealed box you inherited and cannot touch. It is living tissue that depends on 3 things arriving every day: blood through very small vessels, waste removal at night, and steady signals coming in from your body and from the people around you. When any one of those is interrupted for years at a time, brain tissue thins, and that thinning is what shows up later as memory loss. Think of your brain as a house you have lived in for 60 years. A house that is heated, plumbed, drained, and walked through every day holds its value for decades. A house that is shut up, with the water line rusting, the drains blocked, and nobody in the hallways, falls apart much faster. The bricks did not change. The maintenance did. Memory is not luck. Genetics are not destiny. Brain health is maintained. Please do not skip this section. It is the key to everything that follows, because every one of these 5 items is either a rusting pipe, a blocked drain, or an empty hallway. If this is already making sense to you, tap the like button so more seniors can find it. Now let us start the countdown at number 5. Number 5 is your systolic blood pressure. That is the top number on the cuff. Not your cholesterol, not the bathroom scale, the top number. The vessels feeding your memory centers are the thinnest in your body, about the width of a hair. Every day that top number runs high, those tiny vessels take a beating they were never built for. Over years they stiffen and leak, and small patches of brain tissue quietly lose their supply. This is the rusting water line in the house. Nothing bursts on a Tuesday afternoon, but 20 years of pressure leaves the upstairs rooms dry. Do something for me right now. Put 2 fingers on the inside of your wrist and find your pulse. That same wave is arriving in your head every second of your life. A large American trial called Sprint Mind assigned older adults to either a tighter blood pressure target or a standard one. The tighter group had fewer cases of mild cognitive impairment, which is the stage that often comes before dementia. Here is what to do with that. Buy an upper arm cuff, not a wrist cuff, and measure at home twice a day for 1 week. Sit still 5 minutes first, feet flat, back supported, arm at heart level. Take 2 readings 1 minute apart and write down the second one. For most healthy adults over 60, guidelines aim for a top number under 130, though your own target may be higher if you are frail or prone to dizziness. The mistake almost everyone makes is measuring right after coffee, or only in the doctor's office, which gives a number nobody can act on. If you take blood pressure medication, never change the dose on your own. Bring that written week of readings to your doctor and let them decide. And if you feel lightheaded standing up, that is a stop signal, not a small annoyance. Tell your doctor that week, because pressure dropping too far when you stand is its own falling risk. Pair the cuff with 1 salt change. Swap the shaker on the table for a lemon wedge and black pepper. Most of your sodium is already inside bread, canned soup, and deli meat before you ever touch a shaker. This works because home measuring and lower sodium push the same number down from 2 directions. But here is the limit of blood pressure. Getting that number down protects the pipes. It does nothing for the drains. Number 4 decides whether your brain gets cleaned out overnight. Number 4 is deep sleep and the loud snoring that steals it, not hours in bed. The depth of what happens once you are there. In the deepest stage of sleep, your brain runs a cleaning cycle. Channels around the blood vessels widen and flush waste proteins out of the tissue, including the ones that build up in Alzheimer's disease. This is the night sanitation crew. If the crew gets 1 hour on the street instead of 5, the trash does not disappear. It piles up out of sight. Loud snoring with pauses in breathing drags you out of that stage over and over, without you ever remembering waking. Sleep laboratories have shown that even 1 night of disrupted deep sleep raises these waste proteins the next morning. Large studies have consistently linked untreated sleep apnea in older adults with faster cognitive decline. Here is the protocol. Set 1 fixed wake-up time, 7 days a week, including Sunday, and hold it 3 weeks. Stop caffeine after noon because caffeine lasts longer in the body as you age, so a 3 o'clock coffee is still working at 9. Keep the bedroom cool, around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius. And if anyone has ever told you that you snore loudly or stop breathing at night, ask your doctor for a sleep study, which can often be done at home in 1 night. The mistake is going to bed earlier and earlier chasing hours, when the problem is depth. One safety point matters more with age. Do not use over-the-counter sleep aids or antihistamines as a nightly solution, because the ones that make you drowsy also cloud memory and raise fall risk. If you already take a sleeping pill, do not stop it on your own, since some cause a rough withdrawal. Talk to your doctor about tapering instead. And falling asleep sitting up during the day is a stop signal that needs an appointment, not another coffee. Pair this with 10 minutes of outdoor daylight within an hour of waking. Morning light sets the clock that decides when deep sleep arrives 14 hours later. That is why the wake-up time and the light work far better together than either one alone. Now the pipes are protected and the drains are clear, but a house can be perfectly maintained and still fall apart if nobody walks through it. Keep number 1 in the back of your mind, because it is the reason many people cannot do number 3 at all. Number 3 is about the hallways. Number 3 is scheduled face-to-face conversation, at least twice a week, with a specific named person, not company in general, not the television, an appointment with a human being. Conversation is the most demanding thing your brain does all day. You are tracking a face, predicting words, holding the thread, choosing your reply, and reading tone, all in under a second. No puzzle book comes close to that load. In the house, this is the hallway that stays open because people keep walking through it. The rooms nobody enters are the first to go damp and cold. The Lancet Commission I mentioned lists social isolation among its modifiable risk factors, with depression right alongside it. Long-running population studies have consistently found higher dementia rates in older adults who report the fewest regular contacts. Here is how to make that concrete instead of vague. Pick 2 fixed slots in your week, name them, and write them on the calendar. For example, Tuesday at 10 and Saturday at 4. Each one lasts at least 30 minutes and involves real back and forth, not a text message. If distance is the problem, a video call counts, because seeing the face is what carries the load. Add 1 group activity a week where you are known by name. A church group, a choir, a bowling league, a volunteer shift. The mistake people make is waiting to be invited, when the whole protective effect comes from being the one who schedules it. And if you have been quietly avoiding noisy group settings lately, hold that thought, because number 1 explains exactly why. One safety note gets missed here. If you have pulled back from people this past year and no longer enjoy things you used to, that may be depression rather than preference. Depression in later life often shows up as flatness and forgetfulness rather than sadness, and it is very treatable. That is a stop signal, and it is worth an appointment this month, not next year. Pair each conversation with movement, and you get 2 items at once. Walk while you talk, or make the Saturday slot a walk instead of a sit-down. This works because the blood flow from walking and the mental load from talking reach the same tissue at the same time. But conversation cannot build the thing you are about to lose without it. There is 1 item on this list that physically changes the size of a memory structure inside your head, and talking is not it. Number 2 is the one your legs decide. Number 2 is resistance training, twice a week, using your own body weight or a pair of light dumbbells. Not walking. And I will explain exactly why walking alone is not enough. Stand up out of your chair right now without using your hands and sit back down. That is the movement we are talking about. When a muscle contracts hard, it does not just move a bone. It releases signaling molecules into your bloodstream that travel to the brain and switch on growth factors there. The main one acts like fertilizer for the connections between brain cells. In our house, this is the furnace, and it is run from the basement by your legs. Let the furnace go out, and the whole house cools, 1 room at a time. Randomized trials in older adults have shown that structured exercise programs can increase the size of the hippocampus, the memory structure that normally shrinks with age. And the largest prevention trial to date, a Finnish study known as FINGER, combined exercise, diet, brain training, and vascular monitoring, and found better cognitive scores in the group doing all of it together. Here is the protocol, and it is smaller than you think. 2 sessions a week on non-consecutive days, 6 to 8 exercises, 2 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions each. Start with sit-to-stands from a dining chair, wall pushes, heel raises holding the counter, and a hip hinge holding a light weight. The last 2 or 3 repetitions of every set should feel genuinely hard, because that difficulty is the entire signal. Add resistance every 2 weeks, 1 more repetition, or 2 more pounds, or a slower count of 3 seconds on the way down. The mistake is doing the same easy 10 forever, which teaches the body nothing. Every one of these has a safe setup. Do sit-to-stands with the chair behind you and a counter in front. Do wall pushes standing an arm's length from the wall. Do heel raises with both hands on the kitchen counter. Never hold your breath during effort, because that spikes blood pressure, so breathe out on the hard part. Sharp pain means stop, not push through. Chest pressure, dizziness, or shortness of breath out of proportion to the effort means stop and call your doctor that day. Pair each session with 25 to 30 grams of protein within about an hour afterward. That is 3 eggs and a glass of milk, or a cup of Greek yogurt, or a palm-sized piece of chicken. This works because the training gives the signal and the protein gives the material, and neither one builds anything alone. So the pipes, the drains, the hallways, and the furnace are all handled. And you can do all four of those perfectly and still be feeding your brain a fraction of what it needs because of something you cannot see and cannot feel happening. That brings us to number one, the one almost nobody talks about. Number one is untreated hearing loss, not deafness, not the point where you cannot hear at all. The ordinary, slow loss of the high notes that almost everyone over 60 has to some degree and almost nobody treats. Here is why this sits at the top of the list. When the ear stops delivering a clear signal, the brain does not simply hear less. It starts working overtime to guess. Every conversation turns into a puzzle, and the parts of the brain that should be storing what was said get borrowed instead to work out what was said. That is why people with untreated hearing loss so often say their memory is going, when what is actually failing is the delivery. On top of that, the hearing centers themselves shrink faster when they sit unused, and people quietly withdraw from the noisy family dinners where all that hallway traffic used to happen. Back in our house, this is the front door that is swollen shut. The pipes still work and the furnace still runs, but nothing and nobody gets in, so the house closes itself down room by room. Ask yourself something honestly. How many times last month did you smile and nod at a table instead of asking someone to repeat themselves? This is not a fringe idea. The Lancet Commission on Dementia lists hearing loss among the largest single modifiable risk factors across the whole lifespan. And a large American randomized trial called Achieve, run through Johns Hopkins, found that among older adults already at higher risk, 3 years of hearing treatment slowed cognitive decline by roughly half compared with the control group. Here is exactly what to do, and this is the part to write down. First, get a real hearing test, called an audiogram, not a phone application and not a guess. Ask specifically for testing of both pure tones and words and noise, because most people over 60 hear a quiet room fine and fall apart in a restaurant. Second, if there is measurable loss, do not wait for it to get worse, which is the single most common and most costly mistake in this entire video. The average person waits somewhere between 7 and 10 years from noticing to acting, and those are exactly the years this list is about. Third, understand your options, because the price barrier is largely gone. In the United States, over-the-counter hearing aids for mild to moderate loss have been available without a prescription since 2022, at a fraction of the old price. Fourth, and this is the number that decides everything, wear them at least 8 hours a day, every day, not just at church and not just at dinner. The brain needs continuous input to rebuild the pathway, and 1 hour a day does close to nothing. Fifth, give it a full 90 days, and expect the first 2 weeks to sound strange and tinny, because that strangeness is your brain relearning sounds it has not processed in years. Quitting in week 2 is how most people waste the money. Now the safety side, and there are real stop signals here. If your hearing dropped suddenly in one ear over hours or a couple of days, that is an emergency and not a wait and see. Sudden hearing loss can sometimes be treated if you are seen within days, so call your doctor the same day. Ringing in one ear only, hearing loss with dizziness, drainage, or ear pain also needs a medical look before anything else. Never put a cotton swab inside your ear canal, because packed wax is one of the most common and most fixable causes of hearing trouble in older adults, and swabs push it deeper. Have a professional look in the ear first, since a 5-minute wax removal sometimes solves the whole problem. Pair the hearing aids with the item we covered at number 3. Book 1 of your 2 weekly conversations. For the first week, you start wearing them, in a quiet room, with one person you know well. The brain relearns speech fastest with a familiar voice and no background noise. And then you graduate to the restaurant. This works because the device restores the signal, and the conversation gives your brain a reason to use it. I told you at the start that number one was something almost nobody talks about, and now you know why that matters. About 1 in 3 adults between 65 and 74 has meaningful hearing loss. Most wait the better part of a decade, and almost none of them are ever told it has anything to do with their memory. It is the cheapest, fastest, and most reversible item on this entire list. That is how one decision can change the next 10 years. Consider a typical case documented in the rehabilitation literature. A 74-year-old woman comes in with her daughter, who is worried about her memory. She has stopped going to her Thursday card game. She asks people to repeat themselves constantly, and her top blood pressure number has been running in the 150s for 3 years. She sleeps 9 hours and wakes exhausted, and her husband says she snores loudly. Nothing dramatic happens next. She gets an audiogram, which shows moderate loss in both ears, and she starts wearing hearing aids for most of her waking hours. She measures her blood pressure at home for 1 week and brings the sheet to her doctor, who adjusts her medication. She gets a home sleep study, which finds apnea, and begins treatment for it. And she goes back to the Thursday card game, plus 2 sit-to-stand sessions a week in her own kitchen. 6 months later, the picture is different in ways you can count. Her top number runs in the low 130s instead of the 150s, and she wakes rested instead of foggy. She is back to 2 card games a week and can follow the table without asking for repeats. Her cognitive screening score has not fallen, which, at her age and with her starting point, is exactly the win we were after. Let me make this simple enough to start tonight. 5 steps, and every one of them has a number in it. Tonight, write down 1 name and 1 time for a conversation this week, 30 minutes minimum, and send that message before you go to bed. Tonight, set 1 fixed wake-up time and put the alarm across the room, 7 days a week for the next 3 weeks. This week, get an upper arm blood pressure cuff and take 2 readings a day for 7 days, morning and evening. Write the second reading of each pair on 1 sheet of paper. That single sheet is worth more to your doctor than anything you could say out loud in the room. This week, book the audiogram, and if you have been putting it off for years, this is the one call that moves the needle most. Ask for words in noise testing, not just tones. This week, do 2 sessions of 10 sit-to-stands from a dining chair, with the chair behind you and the counter in front. That is 20 repetitions in total, and it takes about 4 minutes. Then add 1 repetition per session every 2 weeks, so that in 3 months you are doing 16 at a time. 5 steps. 2 of them cost nothing at all. None of them take longer than a week to start. Think of someone in your life who has been asking people to repeat themselves for years and calling it nothing. It might be your father, it might be your neighbor, it might be your wife. Send them this video, because number 1 is the item people almost never find on their own. And tell me in the comments which of these you are starting tonight. Your answers decide exactly what I cover next. If you want more of this, subscribe to this channel. This channel exists for one reason, to help you keep making your own decisions for as long as possible. This video is education, not a diagnosis. Your own doctor knows your history, so bring this list to your next appointment. I'm Warren Hayes. Don't forget to subscribe and live longer.